And you're welcome to the Racehorse Ownership webinar, a series this week. I'm delighted you can join us at wherever you're watching from around the country. And I'm delighted to say we have 3 racehorse owners with us this evening, and to thank them for the time. First of all, Chris Jones, whose colours I'm sure you'll be familiar with on the national hunt scene. Horses like Paloma Blue, Ordinary World, Court Sublime, Mala Beach, Noble Endeavour, and a former director of Leopardstown Racecourse as well. Chris, great to have you with us. Also
Thanks,
like to introduce David Sharpe, former chairman of Wigan Athletic, current CEO of Mansfield Town, who had a decent enough draw, I should say, with Tranmere in League 2 over the weekend. Close association with Gordon Elliott, and if you were watching Cheltenham at all this year, you will remember, of course, the Grand Annual winner, Chosen Mate, coming up the hill to give a fantastic win for David. And David, also great to have you with us. Thanks for your time. And last but not least, Shane Dowling, no introduction for Limerick hurling fans, of course, All-Ireland winner in 2018, and retired now because of injury. So more time, I presume, Shane, to throw into the old syndicates and devote a bit more time to horse racing. It's great to have you with us as well.
Thank you.
Okay, first of all, David, just on the football scene, before we get into racing itself, I mentioned, your first game back, Mansfield Town, at the weekend against Tranmere. Is it just great to be back now, albeit without the crowds? How does it feel?
Yeah, it feels good. I mean, that was our first game on Saturday. Very surreal without the fans. You can hear everything that goes on the pitch, whether it be, normally it's probably the referee getting abused. But yeah, something that you wouldn't normally hear. And you don't quite get the emotion. You don't quite get the fact there's 3 points riding on the game. It feels like a bit of a friendly, to be honest with you. So it is strange, but listen, we could still be in lockdown and not even be able to watch football. So I'm thankful for it to be back, and assure every football fan up and down the country, just like racing fans, are happy to see it in some shape or form.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. It's great just to have sport back generally. And I was thinking, just before we come on air, you were talking about Chosen Mate and the Grand Annual. I mean, I'm guessing little did you realise on that Friday afternoon, as you were celebrating a brilliant win, that this was going to be the end of time for the next few months.
Well, I know. And to be fair, we did realise something was coming. He's sort of, with all the newspaper headlines and all the news being about COVID-19, so we made sure we enjoyed that night even more so, because the next 2 months we had, or 2 or 3 months, we had time to recover, didn't we? Let's be honest. So yeah, we had a great time. Had a great night, had a great day, and unfortunately now, obviously, following that day, it's not been quite the same, has it? Let's be honest.
No.
That was the last proper day of racing where we could go and watch, and as owners and as fans. So hopefully soon, when everything's back to normal, we'll be able to. Obviously, owners get the privilege to return to the race courses if they have a horse running, but for the punters and for the fans, that it means a lot that they can be back in. So that's the main thing. Hopefully when the world's back up and running, they can get back and watch the good horses.
Yeah, and Chris, you were just saying as well, 20 years ago, Tiger Cry for yourself in those colours, won the same race with the same jockey on board. Incredibly.
Correct. Yeah, we were chatting about the trophy. It was 2008. He was actually the first horse that I ever bought. My cousin Anna Moore picked him out and we bought him. He was a great horse. But he won the race, and we were travelling back to Dublin that night, but we had to book an extra seat in Aer Lingus to take the trophy, because it is one of the biggest trophies in Cheltenham. Yeah. And I was determined that I wasn't leaving it behind me. So, and yeah, Davy rode him, which was great. Yeah, absolutely. So it just shows Davy's longevity, and he's still competitive and riding a Grand Annual winner 2020.
Yeah, still going strong. I think we're going to have to prize him off those horses. But I guess, for the two of you in particular, to have a day like that, thousands of people come into horse racing ownership, and I guess maybe they have things that they might aspire to or wish for, but having a Cheltenham winner, Chris, has to be right up there, doesn't it?
Yeah, listen, we've been incredibly fortunate. We've had 4 Cheltenham winners, some of which were in my dad's time, but I was old enough to remember them and celebrate them. Clarence Davis won in 95 and 96. And one thing you learn very early is you do not take them for granted, because I say it, they're like Olympic gold medals. They're so hard won. And increasingly, it's got so much more competitive that really, you really need a top horse. There's no easy victories in Cheltenham. So, listen, we mark them down. They're really hard to find. And yeah, no, it's great to have a few here.
Absolutely. And David, can I ask you, with respect to Chosen Mate, I mean, how long have you owned horses? Is it something that you've always been interested in? And I guess, where did your love of the sport come from?
Yeah, always. I mean, my dad was a big racing fan, and I've always followed it. Haven't been into it. Obviously, I'm young, as you might see, and it's something that owning a racehorse or owning racehorses didn't really cross my mind until Busty, who's obviously one of Gordon's main men in the yard.
Yeah.
His assistant was our training ground in Wigan one day, through Paul Cook, who was the manager, his agent, Eamon Collins, who's a big racing fan himself. He was over and he brought Busty into the training ground with him, because I think Gordon might have had a runner at Wolverhampton or somewhere on a Tuesday night on the all-weather. So Busty came to the training ground, met the lads, met myself, met the manager, and I got chatting, got his number. He put me in touch with Mouse O'Ryan, who buys the horses for us. Got chatting to Gordon as well on the phone, and it all sort of stemmed from that.
Busty can be very, very persuasive when he wants to be, all right, can't he?
Well, he gave me a couple of winners, which helped on the night at Wolverhampton. So
there you go.
He was in my good book straight away. So it was only till a conversation with Mouse where just me and my mates had just decided let's get one or two together, and Chosen Mate got put to us, as well as another horse. I don't know, it's not gone on to do much, and so we made the right decision, to be honest with you. But
absolutely. So it's a relatively recent thing for you then.
Yeah. We are myself. I've got three in with different partnerships. One with myself. So very recent. Chosen Mate was probably definitely the first horse that I bought. So within 2 years, 18 months, or even less than that, he was a Cheltenham winner.
Yeah, Shane Dowling, doesn't always happen like that. It doesn't. Within a couple of years, you have a Cheltenham winner coming up the hill.
No, definitely not. I kind of feel I'm kind of junior B standard here now in relation to the two of the boys talking about Cheltenham winners. But to be honest, while it's great to have winners in Cheltenham, the buzz that you get out of winning a 45 to 60 handicap in Dundalk or in the Curragh, wherever it may be, I did certainly get a great buzz out of it. I can't say I got as much of a buzz as what the boys got, but any winner at all is fantastic to get.
Yeah, of course, it's all relative. And this is the thing. And so I think, you're reflective of what certainly a lot of my mates as well who have been involved in syndicates, and it's the only way that it's accessible perhaps to own a racehorse maybe at a certain time in life. And that, I think, is a huge part of keeping the industry going. It's a huge part of the fun around racing as well, when you have a syndicate and a team going together with one horse, which is what you're involved in. I know, even talking to friends of mine as well, exactly what you just said. If it's an Auto 66 in Dundalk on a Friday night in the middle of winter, they get as much buzz out of that as any of the big races as well.
Yeah, correct. And I suppose guys like myself, I suppose, really, am I getting into the sport to make money or anything like that? No, you're not. And, if you can get a group of 15 or 20 lads who want to throw in small money to get a horse in the hope that it may win one race, you'd be delighted. And I think sometimes, I know Ted Walsh had a very famous clip there, I think it was last year around the Punchestown Festival, where he said he hates syndicates.
Yeah.
There's so many different opinions, and you've guys, with all the notions of the world, thinking we know it all. But I suppose really and truly, for someone like me, getting into the sport, paying small money, and every few quid that you might have to pay to buy the horse, to give towards training fees, I see that as an investment for fun and enjoyment, because the same money that I might invest in a year will be the same money that you might have to pay for your golf membership.
Yeah.
And for me, I get as much of a buzz out of seeing a horse run a number of times a year in the hope that it might get over the line just once. And as you said, be it a small race or a big race, for me at this moment in time, I'd take any race.
Like, Chris, obviously, for people who are looking to a position to be able to own race horses in and of themselves, great. But syndicates offer a huge amount of fun, as Shane was mentioned there. I mean, have you ever been part of syndicates, or has it just been the way the ownership for you?
I haven't, Hugh, but I'm even with my Leopardstown hat, when I was a director of Leopardstown, you would notice, and people going racing notice when a syndicate horse wins, because there's just a totally different atmosphere.
Yeah.
And even, I know, say, Ali Mack is not probably a brilliant example, but if you look at the Nikolai Schuster and the racing club that they set up when the horse won. Look at the Blackrock College horse, whose name escapes me now, that won the big race at Christmas. You know, when the guys came in, the celebrations were just unbelievable. Arturian Flame. But like, that's what racing is about. And I think the syndicates are critical. And I know HRI, through Amber and through the team, they really want to promote syndicates. And syndicates are the backbone of a lot of yards. You know, if you look at syndicates, racing clubs, leases, you know, they're really, really important to a lot of yards. And they add so much to the atmosphere on a racing day. So, no, I'm 100% behind them. And I think it's brilliant. It gives people an opportunity at affordable money. They know what their level of expenditure is. And please God, they get the results. And if they're lucky, they do.
I think the mindset, Shane, is key, right? Because, you know, even what Ted was saying about the arguments that might take place within a syndicate about certain directions and stuff. If you go in with a group of people who have the same mindset, as you said, we're not in this to make money. We want to have fun because we love racing. We want to go racing. If you keep to that principle, you can't really go wrong, can you?
100%. And where it falls down is where if you get a number of members into a syndicate who, you know, after a couple of months, like a horse can get injured, there's loads of different things can happen. And then they start getting, I suppose, they just want a horse to run, and then they might want to get the horse to run every week or every second week when that's just not possible. So you're 100% right. You need to get people with the same mindset into the syndicate. And while it still hasn't happened for me, my dream is that you can get a horse with maybe 15 or 20 lads in the hope that it might be able to run at one of the big festivals, get a bus up for the day out, have a few drinks in the bus, a bit of crack up to the race course, and just you hope that it runs well and just have a bit of fun and a laugh. And that's all from my perspective right now. That's what I want to enjoy. But to answer your question, definitely you need people that are all on the same page.
All right, but I'm going to make an offer right now, though, because you've mentioned the golf club membership there, right? I'm playing on like an absolute banana at the moment. I can't swing the ball out of my way. I'm not wasting another, whatever, 1,500 quid or something next week. I'll give you that. We'll buy a horse together and off we go, right? There's a promise.
Yeah, deal done.
I'm giving up that golf, man. It's killing me. David, like, how important was, you know, you coming over, obviously, you met Busty. You must have gone on, you clicked very well. He gave you a couple of winners on the night, which was even nicer. I wonder if he'd give you a couple that finished last, but you said, no, this racing game is not for me.
No, and that's the thing. It's like, well, you look at Chris over the years, how many horse races he's owned and been in it for such a long time. And this was my first horse, Chosen Mate, and we had a Cheltenham winner a year later. That just doesn't happen. People have been in the game so long and plough fortunes into it and don't have a Cheltenham winner. So you've got to take the highs with the lows. We all know racing. We've had a couple of other horses since that haven't quite worked out. So you learn in time. It's not all good, but when you do have a good day, you make sure you've got to enjoy it, because they don't come along too often, especially when they're at Cheltenham. So to be fair, there's no buzz quite like it having a winner, albeit whether it's at Cheltenham or Gorham Park or wherever it might be. There's no buzz. It's such a hard feeling to let somebody know who's not a racehorse owner, because the feeling you get attached to these horses, you get attached to the people in the yard. You know how much it means to them, and when our horse crossed the line at Cheltenham, just like you said, if the syndicate, when the celebrations, and maybe a few people in the owners and trainers were probably frowning upon us a little bit. We might have been a bit too loud, but
come on, you can't be too loud when you have a Cheltenham winner.
Well, you've got to enjoy it. And it was probably, I think it was the second last race of the day. So we were well on our way, to be honest with you. Yeah, so it was great. It was incredible. And
brilliant. I mean, Chris, I think a key part of the last sentence there, what David was talking about, attachment to horses, right? I mean, I'm sure you can appreciate this more than anyone, because, you know, over the years, you've had a long relationship as an owner with various different racehorses. I mean, you know, speaking purely as somebody who just loves watching racing, you know, and might have the odd bet here and there, I find myself getting attached to horses that, you know, I just like, or that will be successful or might win you a few quid. I imagine it takes on a whole different dimension when you actually own a horse and get to see them in the stable, to see them out galloping, to understand what it is that they need from day to day to get them to the racetrack. It's a whole different level, I imagine. Yeah,
I think it is, and I suppose I'm biased because we only do National Hunt, and I think what people love about the National Hunt horses is that a lot of the good ones just show up. You know, year after year, and people get to know them. Whereas in the flat game, you know, they might run as 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds, and then a lot of them they move on, or they go on to different careers, or they're sold abroad to race in Hong Kong or that. But I think there's no doubt, you look at the good national hunt horses and you do get attached to them. And listen, there's no point saying there are highs and lows, but, you know, once you go into it with your eyes open, you know, and once you recognize that, you know, sometimes it doesn't all go smoothly. I think it makes it really important. I know Jessica Harrington says it, and Gordon be another great man for saying it. And Shane is right. Don't get me wrong. We celebrate every winner. All I hunt every year is winners, because listen, we also have to pay the bills. So winners are what pay the bills. Yeah. So unfortunately, I have a sentimental side of it, and I also have a commercial side of it where I have to, you know, we have to perform. And that means that we have to try and finish in the top 10 and the owners if we can. And as a result of that, if we do, you start to make a contribution. But yeah, the horses, listen, we've horses there that Giroux Brand, I don't know if you saw him the other day. We train him at home ourselves. Gerardo Loughlin, who works with me, he's 13 years of age. He finishes 4th the other night. You know, he just doesn't know he's 13 years of age. Yeah. My two sons ride him. You know, one rides him one Saturday, the other rides him the next Saturday. And he's been around since he was 4 or 5 years of age. So that's
part of the family now, right?
Hmm?
Part of the furniture now. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and that's why, you know, when problems arise or something happens, you know, you obviously feel it. Listen, we're not immune to it, and we're very close to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess Ireland would be predominantly, Shane, like a national hunt country. It's just our relationship with horse racing is predominantly national hunt, and that's not to take away from the flat at all. It's just, I guess, the Irish psyche and the mindset. We really just love our jumps horses. We can appreciate the flat as well, obviously, but Ireland is very much a national hunt country.
It is, and I suppose if I'm being totally honest, I would be national hunt myself. I have much more of a draw for it because I suppose it's the bread and butter, and I suppose truth be told, being a Limerick man, obviously JP McManus, Limerick man, sponsor of the Limerick team for many years now. So even growing up, when I wouldn't have known anyone in relation to racing, you know, my dad would have been saying to me, you know, them colours are from a Limerick man, JP McManus. His colours are associated with South Liberty's GA club from where he's from. So, you know, growing up at an early age, that's what I've been looking at all the time. The only thing I will say, though, is that if you're trying to get into a syndicate and put a horse in training, and maybe I'm to correction here, by the way, I think it's probably cheaper and better to have a horse in the flat than national hunt. And I'll tell you why, because number one, it can run all year round, be it in Dundalk that we have here now as well. Yeah, they can run a lot more often. They can run nearly every week or every 2 weeks, depending if they stay sound. And that's the other thing, is that horses in the national hunt tend to get injured a lot more because of what they're doing compared to flat. Yeah,
it's very true. It's very true. And if you can mix the both, obviously, is an ideal world. You know, you look like a horse like Geological. I don't know if you've seen him. Like,
yeah,
he's just an incredible horse for Damien English. Like, and I tell you now, I think he's run at Dundalk something like 5,498 times, but he's still going strong. Like, and he's still winning races. And I love horses like that, especially for trainers like Damien as well, who's trying to cut his teeth and burst through and trying to make a living off it as well. I appreciate those, I think, more than I do even some of the bigger names, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Go ahead, Shane, sorry.
No, I just want to say it's brilliant to see, and you hit the nail on the head there again. You would, and especially Dundalk is fantastic for the winter, and you get these Dundalk regulars, I know. Even a horse like Shake the Bucket, who unfortunately passed away a couple of months ago. Like, I know it was 9 or 10 times he won up there, and you'd see him up there every single winter, and he'd always pull a race or two out of the bag. And so, as you said, it's great to see, and that's why I suppose being involved in the flat, you can run a lot more. And like, listen, don't get me wrong, I've been in Dundalk on a Friday night at 9 o'clock in the last race in the lashing rain. It's not the prettiest of places to be,
cold,
but I got a great buzz of being there anyway.
Yeah, no, it is. It's great. Everybody, like Chris, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, no, just you did a couple of points there that Shane made. Like, I think the national hunt thing is in our DNA. And I think the attraction that people find to national hunt ownership is that the small man, and I use that term carefully, can really compete at the highest level. And if you look back, I was just thinking today in advance of this, you look back at horses like Denoli and Tom Foley and Flemenstar and Peter Casey, when he made that fabulous comment to Tracy Piggott. You know, that's what really is the backbone of the sport. The fact that people at that level feel that they can still compete at the highest level. And I think the syndicates give that opportunity to people. The only things I'd say, and Shane touched on there, and I think you're right, is it's a bit like everything in life. You know, you need to do your homework. You need to pick syndicate members who you like and who you get on with. And you need to take good advice in terms of who you get to train the horse and who you get to buy it. Because it's not straightforward. But there is fabulous days to be had. And you look at the reception that those syndicate horses get, whether it's at Leopardstown at Christmas, or Navan on a Troy Town Day, or Galway in the summer. And you know what? That's what I love about National Hunt Racing. I love the fact that, you know, any guy with a bit of luck can still win a proper race in Ireland with one of those type of horses.
How is the racing scene, do you find, in England overall, David? And like, would you still appreciate that it's as strong as it has been? I know there has been issues around kind of prize money and some problems with some owners recently. I mean, we have to take the rough with the smooth here when we're talking about ownership. But obviously it's working very well for you guys at the moment. But generally, is racing in a good place in the UK at the moment?
For me, I would always, if I continue to buy racehorses, I'll continue to put them in Ireland with Gordon. Okay. I've got no real interest in having them in England, and I follow it. But for me, national hunt racing is supreme in Ireland, and that the facts tell you about over the years. So for me, listen, I'll follow it, I'll watch it. We keep a track of the good horses in England, but nothing can beat the national hunt in Ireland, and that my money and my interest will always be in Ireland when I come to buying a racehorse. And
can I ask you, like, what are the main, if any, obstacles that you've had so far? I mean, or has it all just been plain sailing and you've enjoyed every second of it? Or you know, one of the things, I guess, that, like Chris mentioned there, that you kind of just need to watch out for when you're going into something like this?
Well, listen, we've had a horse that we lost that sadly isn't with us anymore. So that's obviously the worst case scenario, which is awful, and that's, you've got to take the rough with the smooth, and that was only a couple of months after our Cheltenham win. So you've got, like I said earlier, you've got to take the highs, you've got to enjoy them, because only the following week, especially if you own a lot of horses like Chris does, for instance, it's 1 week you may have a great winner, the next week you may lose one, and that's how it is. It's really tough, and especially when you're attached to them. So, but like I said, the buzz of a winner doesn't matter where it is, Dundalk, Cheltenham, Leopardstown, that feeling, and like I'm on my phone for days just watching the race back and watching it back and back, and my missus is going mad at me saying this is the 19th time you've watched it now. But that's you do have that feeling. You get so attached, and you're studying the form, and you're studying what you've beaten, what that goes on to do, what other horses go on to do in the same race, and you just honestly, I love it, and I'm over in Ireland. We've got lucky with Gordon and how good he is, and Mouse, who every time it comes to buying a horse, Mouse will always be the one that sort of puts them into me, and even I'm talking to him at the moment about one. So you've got to. I'm no expert when it comes to buying them, and I'll leave the experts to it. Mouse, Gordon, Busty. I don't like giving my opinion about where the horse should run. Just like in football, I don't tell the manager who to play. So I'll leave that to the guys, and they come up with a plan. And at the end of the day, if they deliver, they deliver, and that's what they did at Cheltenham.
Great. And can I ask you, Shane? You know, if there's people watching in here on the webinar and they're saying, "Geez, okay, we'd love to set up a syndicate." Like, is it an easy enough thing to do? Like, what's your experience of being part of it, and what's the kind of process like?
I suppose it comes back to what Chris said in relation to the trainer. Right? So the first thing you got to do is you got to identify a trainer that that you can trust. Number one, just getting the results. Number two, and that's easy going to get on with. Number three, I suppose that'd be the three things for me. I think if you have a trainer that's interested and is willing to help, it's very, very easy to get involved. I mean, if I was to get 9 lads, and like, say for argument's sake, Dennis Hogan was one lad that I know training, and like, I'd imagine it'd only be a case of making contact with Dennis, telling him the situation, and he'd do everything for you, and I'd imagine he's got a secretary there that's very good at doing all that. So it would be very straightforward. And but I think picking the trainer is, it's very easy to look at the results and hear the Gordon Elliott's and the Dennis Hogans and the Willies and all these guys. But you need to pick wisely. I think it's not all about it, of course, that goes without saying. But I think it's, Chris said it, just we were speaking earlier on, you need to be able to get on with the person as well. You need to be like-minded, and I think that's very important.
Lads, really appreciate your time this evening to Chris Jones, David Sharpe and Shane Dowling. How's the knee, Shane, by the way? You fit, or what's the story?
Yeah, no, so we have a county final next Saturday evening with the Piershick, so no, I won't be taking part. I would arguably say I received somewhat of good news 2 weeks ago. Better news, which is giving me some bit of hope. So yeah, it's still taking a bit of time, but I'm able to go down a different angle now, and maybe with the help of God, I might be able to poke a ball with the club next year.
That's fantastic. Because I was thinking you're only 27 there at me. We're talking about Kevin Manning at 53, still going strong. So, geez, if you get that sorted, man, you've loads of time. So, we wish you all the best.
Yeah, please God, thank you.
Super. Okay, lads.
Thanks,
nice one. Thanks so much, Dave. Best of luck for Mansfield Town for the season ahead. Hopefully you get a push towards promotion, and Chris as well. We'll talk to you soon. Chris can't make up his mind if he's Dublin or me, depending on which way the wind is blowing. But sure, look, it's not too bad choices to have in the football, Chris. Lads, thanks for your time, and we'll talk to you soon.